The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions. Stars twinkled like distant diamonds against the black void. In this quiet corner of the galaxy, two ships moved through the emptiness, unknown to each other. The Valari ship, Star Whisper, glided silently through space. Its sleek hull caught starlight and reflected it in beautiful patterns. Commander Taemin stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the large viewing window. His blue skin had a soft glow, and his large eyes scanned the darkness ahead. "Any unusual readings today?" Taemin asked his crew. Lieutenant Day-Hai sat at her station, checking the long-range sensors. Her fingers moved quickly over the glowing controls. "Nothing yet, Commander. Just empty space and distant stars." The Valari had been exploring this sector for 3 weeks. They were part of the Confederation's deep space exploration fleet. Their job was simple: find new worlds, scan for life, and make contact with any intelligent species they discovered. In 500 years of exploration, the Valari had found many civilizations. Most were primitive, some were advanced, but none had ever been a threat to the mighty Valari Confederation. Taemin felt proud of his people's achievements. The Valari were known throughout 3 galaxy arms as the most advanced species alive. Their technology was beyond anything other races could imagine. Their ships could travel faster than light with ease. Their weapons could destroy planets. Their sensors could detect a single molecule from 1,000 light-years away. "Commander!" Day-Hai called out suddenly. "I'm getting something strange on the sensors." Taemin walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "There's a ship out there. It just appeared on our screens. It wasn't there a moment ago." Taemin frowned. That was impossible. Valari sensors could detect ships from vast distances. Nothing could hide from their advanced scanning technology. "Are you sure the sensors are working correctly?" Day-Hai checked her instruments again. "Yes, sir. Everything is functioning perfectly. The ship is about 50,000 kilometers away. It's big, Commander. Really big." On the viewing screen, a dot of light appeared. As the computer enhanced, the image, the shape of a massive ship, became clear. It was unlike anything the Valari had ever seen. The hull was dark gray, almost black. Strange angles and sharp edges covered its surface. Weapons ports dotted the sides like angry eyes. "Fascinating," Taemin whispered. "A new species. Signal the fleet. We have first contact protocols to follow." Meanwhile, on the human battleship Indomitable, Captain Hyunwoo sat in his command chair. He was reading reports from his crew when his communications officer spoke up. "Captain, we have a problem," said Communications Officer Hye-jin. "The stealth system just went offline." Hyunwoo looked up from his data pad. "For how long?" "About 30 seconds, sir. The backup systems kicked in, but there was definitely a window where we were visible." "Any contacts in the area?" "Scanning." "Now, sir." Hye-jin worked at her station. After a moment, she shook her head. "Nothing on sensors. If anyone saw us, they're too far away to detect." Hyunwoo nodded. The Indomitable was on a training mission in neutral space. Earth Fleet Command had sent them here to practice combat maneuvers far from populated systems. The ship was massive, over 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons. But it was also equipped with the most advanced stealth technology humanity had ever created. When the stealth systems worked, the ship was invisible to most sensors. "Sir," called navigation. "Officer Jin-ho from his station. Should we return to base? If our stealth failed, we might have been detected." "No," Hyunwoo decided. "Continue the mission. If someone did see us, they're probably too scared to approach. Besides, this is good training for the crew. Back on. The Star Whisper. The Volari crew prepared for their standard first contact procedures. These had been developed over centuries of meeting new species. The process was always the same. First, they would scan the alien ship to learn about its technology and crew. Then they would make peaceful contact and offer to share knowledge. Finally, if the aliens were advanced enough, they would be invited to join the Confederation. Begin deep scans, Taemin ordered. I want to know everything about that ship and its crew. Science Officer Mi Young activated the quantum resonance scanners. These were the most powerful sensors in the Volari fleet. They could see through any material and analyze anything from the smallest atom to the largest structure. Scans beginning now, Commander, Mi Young reported. This will take about 20 minutes for a complete analysis. Taemin settled into his chair. 20 minutes to learn everything about a new species. He had done this hundreds of times before. Usually, the aliens were using primitive technology. Sometimes they had basic spaceflight. Very rarely they had. Developed faster-than-light travel. But always, they were far behind Volari science. The scanning beams reached out across space, invisible to most detection systems. They touched the human ship and began to penetrate its hull. Layer by layer, the scanners worked their way deeper into the vessel. On the Indomitable, Tactical Officer Minho noticed something odd on his instruments. Captain, I'm detecting some kind of energy signature. Very faint, but it's there. Origin? Hyunwoo asked. Unknown. It could be natural space phenomena, or it could be someone scanning us. Hyunwoo considered this. If they were being scanned, it meant another ship was nearby. But his sensors showed empty space in all directions. Either the other ship had very good stealth technology, or it was much further away than Earth sensors could detect. Maintain current course, he decided, but bring the ship to yellow alert, just in case. Throughout the Indomitable, alert lights changed from green to yellow. The crew moved a little faster, spoke a little quieter. Weapons specialist Dong Hyun checked his systems. Engineer Yu Jin monitored the ship's power levels. Medical Officer So Young prepared the medical bay for possible casualties. To the humans, this was routine. Yellow alert was a common state during training missions. It meant stay ready, stay alert, but don't panic. The crew had done this thousands of times before. On the Volari ship, the scanning continued. The first results were already coming in, and they were confusing. The alien ship's hull was made of materials the Volari had never seen before. The energy readings were unusual. The internal structure was bizarre. "Commander," Mi Young called. Out, her voice uncertain. "I'm getting some strange readings here." "What kind of strange?" Taemin asked. "I'm not sure. The ship's technology is different. Very different from anything in our databases." Taemin wasn't worried yet. New species often developed along different technological paths. Sometimes, their solutions to problems seemed strange at first. But Volari science could always understand and improve upon alien technology. "Continue the scans," he ordered. "We need complete data before we make contact." As the minutes passed, more and more data flowed into the Volari computers. With each new piece of information, the crew became more puzzled. This wasn't like any species they had encountered before. The alien ship was clearly built for war. But the technology seemed wrong somehow, too simple in some ways, too complex in others. The power systems were generating enormous amounts of energy, but the methods were completely unknown to Volari science. And there was something else. Something that made Commander Taemin feel uneasy. The ship wasn't just built for war. It was built by creatures who understood war in ways the peaceful Valari never had. 10 more minutes until scans are complete, Mi-young announced. Taemin nodded and stared at the image of the alien ship on his screen. Soon they would know everything about these new creatures. Soon they would understand what kind of species they were dealing with. He had no idea that in 10 minutes his entire understanding of the universe would change forever. The scanning beams from the Star Whisper continued to probe deeper into the human battleship. Each second brought new data, and each piece of information made the Valari crew more confused. Science Officer Mi-young stared at her screens in disbelief. The numbers couldn't be right. She ran the scans again, checking for equipment failure. But the instruments were working perfectly. The readings were accurate. They were just impossible. "Commander Taemin!" she called out, her voice shaking slightly. "You need to see this!" Taemin left his command chair and walked over to Mi-young's station. The data displays showed charts and graphs that made no sense. Energy readings that were off the scale. Material compositions that violated known physics. "What am I looking at?" Taemin asked. "The alien ship's hull," Mi-young explained. "It's made of something that shouldn't exist. The materials are changing themselves as we watch. They're adapting, repairing, evolving in real time." Taemin looked closer at the display. The outer hull of the human ship showed countless tiny machines working constantly. They rebuilt damaged sections, strengthened weak points, and improved the structure minute by minute. The Valari had never seen anything like it. "Self-repairing nanotechnology," Mi-young continued. "But not just repairs. The hull is actually getting stronger the longer we observe it. It's learning from our scans and adapting to resist them." This was beyond anything in Valari science. Their most advanced ships needed repair docks and specialized crews to fix damage. This alien vessel fixed itself and improved while floating in empty space. "What about power generation?" Taemin asked. Mi-young switched to another display. The energy readings were even more impossible. "Commander, this ship is producing more power than our entire fleet combined, but the reactor design is completely different from ours. The Valari used antimatter reactors, the most efficient power source, known to science. These reactors could power entire cities for centuries, but the human ship was generating 50 times more energy using technology the Valari couldn't understand." "How is that possible?" Taemin whispered. "I don't know, sir. The power source appears to be fusion-based, which should be primitive compared to our antimatter systems. But they're getting impossible efficiency from it. The plasma temperatures are beyond anything we thought possible. The magnetic containment fields are stronger than our best military-grade systems." Lieutenant Da-hai spoke up from her sensor station. "Commander, I'm detecting multiple backup power systems throughout the ship. If the main reactor failed, they have dozens of secondary reactors that could each power a Valari battlecruiser." Taemin felt a chill run down his spine. Why would any species need so much power? What were these creatures planning to do with energy that could level continents? Meanwhile, on the Indomitable, the crew continued their training exercises. Captain Hyun-woo watched as his officers practiced standard combat procedures. To them, this was routine maintenance of skills they hoped never to use in real combat. Engineer Yu-jin moved through the ship's corridors, checking systems and making minor adjustments. She stopped at a control panel and ran diagnostics on the hull nanobots. The tiny machines were working perfectly, maintaining the ship's armor and stealth systems. "Hull integrity at 103%. She reported to her team. The nanobots have improved efficiency by another 0.2% since yesterday. This was normal for human ships. The nanotechnology didn't just maintain the hull. It constantly improved it, learning from every stress test and minor impact. After months in space, a human ship was actually stronger than when it left port. Yujin moved on to check the fusion reactors. The massive engines hummed quietly, producing enormous amounts of power. But to Yujin, they were just part of the ship's basic systems. She had been working with fusion technology since she was a teenager. Every human engineer learned these systems the way other species learn to write. Reactor efficiency holding steady at 96.7%, she reported. All backup systems online and ready. The backup reactors were scattered throughout the ship. Human military doctrine demanded redundancy in everything. If enemies destroyed the main reactor, the ship could continue fighting using secondary power. If those failed, emergency reactors could keep life support and basic weapons online for weeks. Back on the Volari ship, more impossible data kept coming in. "Commander," Mi-young called out again, "the weapon systems analysis is complete. I think you should sit down for this." Taemin remained standing, but he gripped the edge of the console. "Show me." The display changed to show the human ship's armament. Taemin's legs nearly gave out. The alien vessel carried enough firepower to destroy planets. Not just damage them, completely destroy them. "Those are kinetic railguns," Mi-young explained, pointing to massive weapon ports along the ship's sides. "They fire projectiles at 12% of light speed. Each shot carries more energy than our most powerful torpedoes." "And those?" Taemin pointed to other weapon systems. "Particle beam arrays. They focus coherent energy streams that could cut through our shields like they were made of paper. And these here are missile launchers. Each missile appears to carry a fusion warhead powerful enough to destroy one of our cities." The weapons catalog went on and on. Energy weapons that could melt asteroids. Projectile weapons that could punch through planetary crusts. Defensive systems that could destroy entire fleets of incoming missiles. "How many weapons does this ship carry?" Taemin asked weakly. Mi-young checked the data. "Over 3,000 individual weapon systems, Commander. This ship could fight our entire fleet and probably win. But the most disturbing part wasn't the number of weapons. It was how they were integrated into the ship's design. Every corridor, every room, every system had been built with combat in mind. The entire vessel was designed by creatures who expected to fight and expected to win." Communications Officer Hee-jin on the human ship received a routine message from Earth Fleet Command. She read it quickly and forwarded the important parts. To Captain Hyun-woo. "Sir, new orders from Command. We're to extend our training mission by 3 days. They want us to practice deep space combat scenarios." "Understood," Hyun-woo replied. "Inform the crew. We'll be running war games starting tomorrow." War games. The Volari listening to their communications didn't understand that this was training. To them, it sounded like the aliens were preparing for immediate combat. The casual way the humans discussed warfare made the Volari crew more nervous. Weapons specialist Dong-hyun began preparing for the exercises. He activated targeting systems and loaded practice ammunition into the railguns. The weapons came online with frightening efficiency. Systems that took Volari crews hours to activate were ready in minutes. "All weapon systems green," Dong-hyun reported. "Ready for combat exercises." The Volari scanners detected the weapons activation. To them, it looked like the alien ship was preparing to attack someone. The massive guns swiveled to track invisible targets. "Energy weapons charged to full power. Missile launchers loaded their deadly cargo." "Commander," Lieutenant Dae-hai said urgently, "the alien ship is powering weapons. All of them." Taemin felt panic rising in his chest. Had they been detected? Were the aliens about to attack? The peaceful first contact he had planned was turning into a potential battle with creatures whose technology was beyond Valari understanding. "Should we raise shields?" Dahai asked. Timon looked at the tactical display. The alien ship's weapons were pointed in random directions, not at the Star Whisper, but those weapons could destroy his ship before he could even think about defending. "Maintain distance," he ordered. "Keep scanning, but be ready to run if they target us." The data continued to flow in. Each new piece of information made the situation worse. The alien ship wasn't just powerful. It was designed by a species that thought about warfare in ways the Valari couldn't understand. Every system had multiple backups. Every weapon had multiple targeting methods. Every defense had multiple layers. These creatures didn't just prepare for battle. They prepared for losing battles and continuing to fight. Mi-young discovered something else in the scans. "Commander, there are hundreds of smaller craft inside the ship. Fighter craft, boarding pods, assault shuttles. This isn't just a battleship. It's a mobile invasion force. The human ship could attack planets, fight fleets, and land armies. It was everything the Valari feared most about unknown species. And somehow, these aliens had built it using technology that seemed both primitive and impossibly advanced at the same time." "How is this possible?" Taemin asked. "How can a species develop such weapons without developing beyond the need for them?" Mi-young had no answer. In Valari experience, advanced civilizations became peaceful. They moved beyond warfare to focus on science and exploration. But these aliens seemed to have advanced specifically to become better at war. The scanning continued. But Taemin already knew enough to be terrified. They had found a species that could destroy the Valari Confederation without breaking a sweat. And they had no idea what these creatures wanted or why they were here. On the Indomitable, Captain Hyun-woo finished reading his reports and decided to get some coffee. It had been a quiet day, and the training exercises wouldn't start until tomorrow. He had no idea that his peaceful. The deeper scans of the human battleship revealed something that made the Valari crew question their understanding of biology itself. Science Officer Mi-young stared at her readings in growing horror as the quantum scanners penetrated the ship's living quarters and analyzed the crew. "Commander Taemin?" Mi-young called out, her voice barely above a whisper. "The biological scans are complete. You need to see this immediately." Taemin hurried over to her station. The biological data displays showed information about the alien crew that defied everything the Valari knew about life in the universe. "These readings can't be correct," Taemin said. "Run the scans again." "I've run them 4 times, sir. The results are consistent. These creatures, they're impossible." The display showed the basic biology of the humans aboard the ship. Every measurement was terrifying to the Valari. The aliens had internal fluid pressure that would cause Valari organs to explode. Their muscle density was 3 times higher than anything the Valari had seen in nature. Their bone structure could withstand impacts that would shatter Valari skeletons. "Look at their cardiovascular system," Mi-young pointed to the data. "Their blood is acidic enough to dissolve Valari tissue. The pressure their hearts generate would rupture our blood vessels instantly, and somehow they function normally with this system. The Valari had smooth, efficient circulatory systems that moved nutrients gently through their bodies. The human system was like a high-pressure hydraulic network, forcing corrosive fluid through vessels that seemed designed for extreme stress." "What about their neural activity?" Taemin asked. Mi-young switched to brain scan data. The results were even more disturbing. Their neural patterns show constant stress responses that would drive a Volari insane within hours. But for them, this appears to be normal baseline activity. The human brain scans showed electrical activity levels that would indicate severe trauma in Volari. But the humans were going about their daily routines, showing no signs of distress. Their minds operated at stress levels that would hospitalize the most hardened Volari warriors. Meanwhile, in the medical bay of the Indomitable, Medical Officer So Young was treating routine injuries from the crew's training exercises. A maintenance worker had cut his hand while replacing a circuit board. To So Young, it was a minor wound requiring basic treatment. She cleaned the cut with antiseptic that would burn through Volari skin, then sealed it with medical adhesive strong enough to hold metal together. The worker returned to duty within minutes, the injury already forgotten. "Thanks, Doc," the worker said casually. "That stings a bit, but it'll be fine." The Volari scanners recorded this interaction. What they witnessed was a creature treating a wound with chemicals that would be classified as industrial solvents by their standards. The casual way the human endured pain that would incapacitate a Volari was deeply unsettling. So Young moved on to her next patient, a security officer who had strained his back during combat training. She injected him with pain medication that would put a Volari into a coma, then recommended exercises that would tear Volari muscles. "Take it easy for a few hours," So Young advised. "Do some light stretching and you'll be fine by tomorrow." The security officer nodded and walked away. Within the hour, he was back on duty, performing tasks that required the kind of physical strength the Volari needed mechanical assistance to achieve. Back on the Star Whisper, the crew continued analyzing the impossible biological data. "Commander," Lieutenant Dahai reported from her station, "I've been analyzing the atmospheric composition inside their ship. The air they breathe would poison us within minutes. The human ship's atmosphere contained oxygen levels that would cause Volari to hallucinate and eventually die. The nitrogen concentration was toxic to Volari nervous systems. Even the trace gases would cause severe organ damage. They're breathing industrial atmosphere," Dahai continued. "How can any biological creature survive in that environment?" Ma Young had more disturbing news. "I've analyzed their food storage areas. Commander, what they consider food would kill most known species. The chemical composition is like eating toxic waste. The human food stores contained levels of sodium that would shut down Volari kidneys, spices that would burn holes in Volari digestive systems, preservatives that were literally poisonous to most galactic life forms. In the Indomitable's mess hall, crew members ate their lunch without complaint. The food was standard military rations designed to provide maximum nutrition in harsh conditions. The humans consumed meals that would be classified as chemical weapons by Volari standards. Navigation Officer Jin Ho bit into a protein bar that contained enough caffeine to give a Volari heart palpitations. He washed it down with coffee strong, enough to dissolve Volari teeth. For him, it was just a normal afternoon snack. "The gravitational conditions are another problem," Mi Young reported to Commander Tae-min. "Based on their muscle and bone density, these creatures evolved in gravity 3 times stronger than our homeworld." This revelation hit Tae-min like a physical blow. The human ship was operating in what the Volari considered standard gravity. But for the humans, this was actually light gravity. They were functioning at only 1/3 of their normal physical capacity. "You mean they're not even trying?" Tae-min asked. "Worse than that, sir. In their natural gravity, they would be 3 times stronger, 3 times faster, 3 times more durable than what we're seeing now. The implications were terrifying." The humans were already impossible by Valari standards, but they weren't, even operating at full capacity. In their home environment, they would be living gods compared to the Valari. Security Chief G1 walked through the corridors of the Indomitable, performing routine security checks. Her movements were smooth and efficient, showing no signs of strain. The Valari scanners tracked her progress, noting that she carried equipment weighing more than most Valari could lift. G1 stopped to inspect a weapons locker, lifting heavy rifles as if they were made of cardboard. She checked each weapon's condition, handling devices that would require two Valari working together to operate. For her, it was light work. The psychological profiles are the most disturbing aspect, Mi-young told Tae-min. Their mental conditioning is designed for extreme stress tolerance. What they consider normal emotional states would indicate severe trauma in our species. The human crew operated with constant awareness of potential threats. They maintained readiness for violence while performing peaceful tasks. Their minds processed danger scenarios continuously, treating paranoia as a survival skill rather than a disorder. Tactical Officer Minho reviewed security protocols while eating his lunch. He casually planned responses to boarding actions, system failures, and enemy attacks. His mind worked through dozens of combat scenarios while he performed routine tasks. To the Valari monitoring these thoughts, it seemed like the humans were constantly preparing for war. They couldn't understand that this was simply how human minds worked. Millions of years of evolution had created creatures who survived by expecting the worst and preparing for it. "Commander," Dahai called out urgently. "I'm detecting medical procedures in their sick bay. You need to see this." The medical scans showed So-young performing routine surgery on a crew member who had injured his shoulder. The procedure involved cutting through tissue, relocating bones, and sealing wounds. The patient was conscious throughout the operation. "They're performing surgery without anesthesia," Mi-young observed. "The patient is enduring pain levels that would cause a Valari to go into shock and die." Actually, the human patient had received local anesthetic, but the pain levels he was experiencing would still be unbearable to Valari physiology. The human simply gritted his teeth and endured what his species considered minor discomfort. "How? Are they even conscious?" Tae-min asked. "The neural trauma alone should have shut down their brain functions." "I don't know, sir. Their nervous systems seem designed to function under conditions that would be lethal to us." The surgical procedure continued for another hour. So-young worked with calm efficiency, repairing damage that would require major reconstructive surgery for a Valari. The patient remained alert and cooperative throughout, even making casual conversation with the medical staff. When the surgery was finished, the patient walked back to his quarters under his own power. Within 6 hours, he was back on duty performing tasks that required the shoulder he had just had repaired. "Commander," Mi-young said quietly, "I think I understand what we're looking at here." "Explain." "These aren't just aliens. They're a species that evolved under conditions that would kill us instantly. Their homeworld must be a death trap by our standards. High gravity, toxic atmosphere, extreme temperatures, dangerous predators. Everything about their biology suggests they evolved in hell." Tae-min stared at the biological data scrolling across the screens. Every measurement confirmed Mi-young's assessment. The humans were creatures from a nightmare world who had somehow developed technology advanced enough to travel between stars. "And now they're in space," Tae-min whispered. "They've brought their nightmare biology with them." The scanning continued, but the Valari crew already understood enough to be terrified. They had encountered a species that redefined their understanding of what life could endure. The humans weren't just The cultural database scans revealed the most horrifying aspect of humanity yet discovered. As the Valari quantum scanners penetrated the human ship's computer systems, they accessed entertainment files, historical records, and training materials that made the alien crew question their sanity. Science Officer Mi Young worked frantically at her station, trying to process information that challenged everything the Valari understood about civilized behavior. The human cultural data was so disturbing that she had to take breaks to prevent psychological breakdown. "Commander Tae-min," Mi Young called out, her voice shaking. "The cultural analysis is complete. I recommend you review this privately first." Tae-min looked at his science officer's pale face and trembling hands. In 30 years of service, he had never seen Mi Young this disturbed. "Show me everything." The main display filled with human entertainment files. What the Valari saw defied their understanding of recreational activities. The humans created fictional stories involving violence that exceeded the worst real conflicts in Valari history, and they watched these stories for fun. "This appears to be their entertainment," Mi Young explained. "They call them movies and books. Commander, the violence depicted in their fiction is beyond anything in our historical records." Tae-min watched clips from human action movies, explosions that destroyed entire city blocks, fighting scenes that showed creatures killing dozens of opponents with their bare hands, chase sequences through environments that would kill most life forms. "They watch this voluntarily?" Tae-min asked. "Yes, sir. Our scans show they have thousands of these entertainment files. Violence, warfare, survival scenarios, horror situations. They seem to enjoy being frightened and disturbed." The Valari entertainment consisted of peaceful music, educational programs, and gentle stories about cooperation and friendship. The idea that any species would choose to watch violence for pleasure was completely alien to them. Meanwhile, in the recreation room of the Indomitable, several crew members were watching an old Earth movie during their off-duty time. Communications Officer Hae-jin sat with her colleagues, enjoying a classic action film about soldiers fighting against impossible odds. "This is a good one," Hae-jin commented, as the movie's heroes battled through enemy territory. "The tactics are actually pretty realistic." The other crew members nodded, analyzing the combat strategies displayed on screen. To them, it was educational entertainment that helped them think about problem-solving under pressure. They discussed the characters' decisions and debated better approaches to the fictional challenges. The Valari scanners recorded this conversation and interpreted it as tactical planning for real warfare. The casual way humans discussed violence and strategy was deeply unsettling to creatures who had evolved beyond conflict. "Look at their historical records," Mi Young continued, switching to another display. "Their entire civilization is built on a foundation of warfare. The human historical databases contained records of thousands of conflicts spanning millennia. Wars fought with primitive weapons, advanced technology, and everything in between. The creativity humans showed in developing new ways to fight was astounding to the peaceful Valari. They've been fighting continuously for their entire recorded history," Mi Young observed. "Even during peaceful periods, they were preparing for the next war." What disturbed the Valari most was how humans treated warfare as an intellectual exercise. Military academies taught conflict as a science. Strategic planning was considered an art form. The humans had turned violence into philosophy. Tactical Officer Min Ho was reviewing training materials in his quarters. The documents covered advanced combat scenarios, strategic planning methodologies, and historical case studies of famous battles. To him, it was professional development required for his job. The training materials would have traumatized Valari military officers. They described situations where entire fleets were destroyed, planets were invaded, and populations were evacuated under enemy fire. Minho read through scenarios that represented the darkest nightmares of Valari warfare. According to their military doctrine, Mi Young reported, they plan for total defeat and continued resistance. They have strategies for fighting after their governments fall, their fleets are destroyed, and their worlds are conquered. This concept was beyond Valari understanding. When Valari faced superior forces, they surrendered and negotiated. The idea of continuing to fight after defeat was incomprehensible to their civilized minds. But humans had developed entire military philosophies based on never giving up. Guerrilla warfare, resistance movements, asymmetric tactics. They had turned, losing into another form of fighting. Security Chief G1 conducted routine security drills throughout the ship. Her exercises assumed multiple simultaneous disasters, enemy boarding, system failures, reactor emergencies, and command structure breakdown. The scenarios would represent existential threats to Valari vessels. G1's security teams practiced, responding to situations where everything went wrong at once. They trained to fight in damaged ships, with limited resources, against superior enemies. These were standard exercises that every human security officer learned. Their communication intercepts are equally disturbing, Communications Officer Dehai reported. Listen to how casually they discuss combat scenarios. The Valari had been monitoring human radio chatter throughout the ship. Routine conversations between crew members included references to tactical situations, survival strategies, and contingency plans that would be classified military secrets in Valari space. "Did you see the new emergency protocols?" one human asked. Another over the comm system. "Yeah, the ones for fighting in depressurized sections. Good stuff. Much better than the old procedures." This conversation horrified the Valari. The humans were casually discussing combat in conditions that would kill most spacefaring species. They treated fighting in vacuum as a routine tactical consideration. In the engineering section, Yujin was training new crew members on damage control procedures. The training involved scenarios where major ship systems failed during combat. Students learned to repair reactors while under enemy fire, restore life support in vacuum conditions, and maintain weapons systems with minimal resources. "Remember," Yujin told her students, "if the primary cooling system fails during battle, you have maybe 10 minutes before reactor overload. Use emergency coolant, reroute power through secondary lines, and keep the weapons online no matter." What? The Valari listening to this conversation couldn't understand how any species could function under such conditions. The stress levels involved would cause immediate psychological breakdown in Valari personnel. Their psychological conditioning is the most frightening aspect, Mi Young told Commander Taemin. They train their minds to function under extreme stress. What they consider normal mental preparation would destroy Valari sanity. Human military training included psychological conditioning that exposed crews to simulated combat stress, survival scenarios, and crisis management. The goal was to create personnel who could think clearly while everything around them collapsed. The Valari military trained for orderly conflicts with clear objectives and civilized rules. Human training assumed chaos, confusion, and the complete breakdown of normal operations. They prepared for war as a form of controlled insanity. Medical officer So Young reviewed psychological profiles of the crew during her routine evaluations. The mental health standards for human space personnel included stress tolerance levels that would indicate severe pathology in Valari. Crew psychological status remains within normal parameters, So Young noted in her report. Stress indicators are at acceptable levels for extended deep space operations. The normal parameters she referenced would have required immediate psychiatric intervention for Valari personnel. But humans operated routinely with mental stress loads that would hospitalize other species. Commander, Mi-young said quietly, I think we need to consider the possibility that these creatures are what they are, precisely because they enjoy conflict. Taemin stared at the cultural data scrolling across his screens. What do you mean? Look. At their entertainment, their history, their training, they don't fight because they have to. They fight because some part of them wants to. Violence isn't a last resort for them. It's a tool they've perfected through centuries of practice. This was the most terrifying realization yet. The Valari had assumed that advanced species naturally evolved beyond warfare, but humans seemed to have advanced specifically to become better at fighting. They've turned conflict into an art form, Mi-young continued. Their strategic thinking, their tactical creativity, their technological development. Everything is focused on becoming more effective at warfare. In the ship's library, several off-duty crew members were reading books about military history, studying famous battles and legendary commanders. They discussed strategy and tactics with the enthusiasm other species reserved for art or music. The flanking maneuver at Midway was brilliant, one crew member commented. Using carrier aircraft to change the entire nature of naval warfare. Have you read about the defense of Stalingrad? Another asked. Urban warfare tactics that influenced military doctrine for centuries. These conversations were recorded by Valari scanners and analyzed as the deep structure scans of the human battleship revealed a technological philosophy that terrified the Valari more than anything they had discovered so far. Every system, every component, every circuit had been designed with one fundamental assumption. Everything will fail catastrophically, multiple times under the worst possible conditions. Science Officer Mi-young worked through the technical specifications with growing dread. Commander Taemin, their engineering philosophy is completely insane, but it works. Taemin studied the technical readouts on the main display. The human ship's design violated every principle of efficient engineering the Valari had developed over centuries. Yet somehow, it functioned with terrifying effectiveness. Look at their primary reactor system, Mi-young explained, highlighting sections of the ship's power grid. They don't just have backup systems. They have backups for the backups, and emergency systems for when all the backups fail. The Valari used elegant, efficient designs where each component served a specific purpose. Human engineering was chaotic, redundant, and seemingly wasteful. But the Valari were beginning to understand that this wasn't poor design. It was the product of a species that expected the universe to try to kill them at every opportunity. Their main reactor can be completely destroyed, and they can still maintain full combat capability using secondary power, Mi-young continued. If those fail, they have emergency reactors that can keep the ship fighting for weeks. This level of redundancy was incomprehensible to Valari thinking. Why would any species design systems assuming total failure? The answer was becoming clear. Because humans had experienced total failure repeatedly and learned from it. Meanwhile, in the engineering section of the Indomitable, Chief Engineer Yu-jin was conducting routine maintenance that would be considered emergency repairs by Valari standards. She worked inside the main reactor housing, replacing components while the system operated at full power. Primary cooling system efficiency down to 94%. She reported to her team. We'll swap out the thermal exchangers during the next maintenance cycle. 94% efficiency would represent a critical failure requiring immediate shutdown in Volari technology. For humans, it was a minor maintenance issue that could wait for a convenient time to address. Eugene moved to check the backup cooling systems. There were 7 independent cooling loops, each capable of handling the full reactor load. If the primary system failed completely, the ship could continue operating without any reduction in capability. All backup systems green, she reported. Redundancy is holding at optimal levels. The Volari scanners recorded this maintenance routine and tried to understand the implications. The humans operated their most critical systems with the casual assumption that major components would fail. Regularly, they had built their technology to survive disasters that would destroy entire Volari fleets. Their weapons systems show the same design philosophy, Mi-young told Commander Tae-min. Each weapon has multiple targeting methods, multiple power sources, and multiple firing mechanisms. The human railguns could operate using magnetic acceleration, chemical propulsion, or emergency mechanical systems. If the primary targeting computers failed, backup systems could guide the weapons. If those failed, human operators could aim and fire manually. Why would they need manual backup for energy weapons? Tae-min asked. Because they've apparently fought battles where all their technology was destroyed or compromised. They've learned to keep fighting with primitive methods when advanced systems fail. This revealed something terrifying about human military experience. They hadn't just imagined worst-case scenarios, they had lived through them and developed technology to survive them. Weapons specialist Dong-hyun ran diagnostics on the ship's armament during his shift. The weapons passed every test, but he checked the manual backup systems anyway. Each gun could be operated by hand if necessary, using mechanical systems that required no power or computer assistance. All weapon systems nominal, Dong-hyun reported. Manual backup systems tested and ready. The idea that spaceship weapons might need manual operation was beyond Volari comprehension. Their weapons required sophisticated targeting computers and automated systems. Human weapons could be operated by crews using nothing but mechanical knowledge and determination. Look at their life support systems, Mi-young continued her analysis. They have enough backup air, water, and food to survive for months after. Total system failure. The human ship carried emergency supplies that could sustain the crew even if every life support system was destroyed. They had manual air recycling equipment, water purification systems that required no power, and emergency rations that could last for extended periods. Their emergency protocols assume the crew will be stranded in space, fighting off enemies while systems fail around them, Mi-young observed. And they've prepared for that scenario. In the ship's storage areas, emergency supplies were distributed throughout multiple compartments. If sections of the ship were destroyed, the crew could survive in the remaining areas using locally stored resources. They had planned for fighting while their ship was literally falling apart around them. Security Chief Ji-won inspected the emergency equipment during her rounds. Each storage compartment contained enough supplies to keep a dozen crew members alive for weeks. Weapons, tools, medical supplies, and food were cached throughout the ship. Emergency supply levels at 100%, Ji-won reported. All compartments fully stocked and ready. The Volari realized that humans didn't just prepare for equipment failure. They prepared for total disaster while continuing to fight. Their emergency supplies included weapons and tools for combat in the most desperate circumstances. Their computer systems are the most paranoid I've ever seen, Mi-young told Tae-min. Every critical function runs on multiple independent networks. They assume their computers will be hacked, destroyed, or compromised. Human-computer architecture included dozens of separate networks that could operate independently. If enemies destroyed or infiltrated one system, the others could continue functioning. Critical operations could be performed manually if all computers failed. They've built their technology assuming intelligent enemies will try to destroy it, Mi Young continued. Every system has countermeasures for sabotage, hacking, and deliberate destruction. This level of technological paranoia suggested that humans had fought wars against enemies who could compromise their systems. They had learned to build technology that could resist not just random failure, but deliberate attack by intelligent opponents. Communications Officer He Jin monitored the ship's communication networks during her shift. The communications array used 7 different transmission methods, each on separate systems that couldn't be compromised together. Even if enemies jammed most frequencies, some communications would get through. All communication systems operational, Hyejin reported, redundancy protocols maintaining full connectivity. The human communication philosophy assumed that enemies would try to prevent them from coordinating their forces. They had built systems that could function even under intelligent, determined attack. Their hull design is equally paranoid, Mi Young observed. The armor isn't just thick. It's designed to contain explosions, redirect energy weapons, and maintain structural integrity, even with massive damage. The human ship's hull included blast chambers that could contain internal explosions, energy distribution systems that spread, weapon impacts across the entire structure, and compartmentalization that prevented damage from spreading. They've built this ship to keep fighting even while it's being destroyed, Mi Young said quietly. Navigation Officer Jin Ho worked with systems that could navigate using any of dozens of different methods. Star charts, gravitational sensors, quantum positioning, and even manual celestial navigation were all available as backup systems. Navigation systems fully operational, Jin Ho reported. All backup methods tested and confirmed. The humans had prepared to navigate through space, even if most of their technology was destroyed. They could find their way home using methods that required only basic instruments and human knowledge. "Commander," Mi Young said, "I think I understand what we're seeing here. This isn't advanced technology. This is desperate technology. Explain." Every system on this ship was designed by creatures who expected to die. They've built redundancy into redundancy because they've learned that the universe will try to kill them in ways they haven't thought of yet. The Valari built elegant, efficient systems because they lived in a peaceful, stable galaxy. Humans built desperate, redundant systems because they had learned that peace was temporary and stability was an illusion. They don't just prepare for equipment failure, Mi Young continued. They prepare for fighting while everything fails, against enemies trying to make it fail, in conditions that would kill other species. Medical Officer So Young maintained medical equipment that could function without power, in vacuum conditions, using supplies that could be scavenged from damaged areas of the ship. Her medical bay was prepared to treat injuries that would result from the ship being destroyed around them. Medical systems operational, So Young reported. Emergency protocols, ready for deployment. The biological deep scan results revealed the ultimate truth about humanity that made the Valari crew question their place in the universe. As the quantum scanners analyzed human anatomy, behavior patterns, and evolutionary history, a terrifying picture emerged of a species that had evolved not just to survive, but to hunt and kill other intelligent life. Science Officer Mi Young stared at the evolutionary analysis with growing horror. Her hands trembled as she prepared to share the most disturbing discovery yet with Commander Tae-min. "Commander!" Mi-young called out, her voice barely audible. "The biological evolution scans are complete. Sir, we need to consider immediate withdrawal from this sector." Tae-min approached her station with dread. Each new discovery about the humans had been worse than the last. "Show me what you found." The main display filled with anatomical diagrams that made Tae-min's blood run cold. The human body design was that of a perfect predator. Every feature, every adaptation, every biological system was optimized for tracking, pursuing, and killing other intelligent creatures. "Look at their eyes," Mi-young pointed to the analysis. "Forward-facing binocular vision for precise depth perception during pursuit. Their visual processing is designed for tracking movement and predicting the behavior of fleeing prey." The Volari had eyes positioned on the sides of their heads, giving them wide-angle vision to watch for danger. Prey species developed this way to spot predators approaching from any direction. Humans had predator eyes, designed for focusing on targets and tracking their movements. "Their skeletal structure confirms it," Mi-young continued. "Long limbs for running, robust joints for impact absorption, spine designed for efficient bipedal pursuit over long distances." The human body was built for endurance hunting, a terrifying predatory strategy where hunters pursued prey over vast distances until exhaustion made them easy to kill. The Volari had read about this strategy in their xenobiology texts, but they had never expected to encounter a species that used it. Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Dr. Yoon Seo worked in her xenobiology laboratory, studying theoretical alien life forms and developing protocols for first contact scenarios. Her research was routine preparation for eventual encounters with other species. She reviewed biological data from dozens of theoretical alien types, analyzing their potential weaknesses, behavioral patterns, and physiological limitations. 2. It was scientific preparation for peaceful contact. The Volari scanners interpreted it as a predator studying potential prey. Theoretical species designation Gamma-7, Yunseo noted in her research log. Silicon-based life form with crystalline structure. Potential vulnerabilities include sonic disruption of crystalline matrix and rapid temperature changes. Dr. Yunseo was developing containment protocols and safety procedures for encountering unknown species, but her research notes read like a hunter's guide to exploiting alien weaknesses. Every species profile included information that could be used for capture or elimination. "Their neurological structure is equally disturbing," Mi-young told Commander Tae-min. "Their brains have enlarged areas for spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, and behavioral prediction. These are classic predator adaptations." Human neural development included sophisticated systems for understanding how other creatures thought and behaved. They could predict actions, recognize deception, and plan strategies for dealing with intelligent opponents. Their minds were evolved for outsmarting other intelligent species. "Look at their sensory capabilities," Mi-young continued. "Enhanced hearing for detecting subtle sounds, smell detection for tracking. Even their taste buds are adapted for identifying chemical traces in organic matter." The human sensory suite was designed for hunting. They could track other creatures by scent, detect hidden opponents by sound, and analyze biological samples to learn about potential prey species. Combat specialist. Sungmin practiced advanced tactical scenarios in the ship's training facility. His exercises assumed fighting in various environmental conditions against opponents with different capabilities. The training scenarios covered combat in zero gravity, toxic atmospheres, and extreme temperature ranges. Environmental combat drill. 7 complete, Sungmin reported. Hostile environment protocols functioning within acceptable parameters. The Valari scanners recorded these training sessions and realized that humans prepared to fight anywhere, under any conditions. They didn't just adapt to hostile environments. They prepared to hunt in them. Their social structure confirms predatory pack behavior, Mi Young observed. They organize in hierarchical groups with specialized roles for different types of hunting and combat. Human military organization resembled the pack hunting strategies of apex predators. Specialists for tracking, pursuit, ambush, and killing worked together in coordinated groups. Each individual had specific skills that contributed to the group's hunting effectiveness. They've maintained their predatory instincts while developing advanced technology, Mi Young continued. Most species evolve beyond their primitive hunting behaviors. Humans have weaponized theirs. The Valari had assumed that technological advancement naturally led to peaceful behavior. Advanced species should move beyond violence and competition. But humans seem to have used technology to become more effective predators. Security Chief Ji Wan conducted crew training that assumed combat against intelligent opponents using advanced technology. The scenarios included fighting enemies who could think, plan, and adapt to human tactics. Her training prepared humans to hunt other spacefaring species. Advanced tactical scenario complete, Ji Wan reported. Crew performance in anti-personnel operations within acceptable limits. The casual way humans discussed combat against intelligent opponents chilled the Valari. They trained to fight other thinking beings with the same systematic approach other species used for industrial production. Look at their technological development patterns, Mi Young showed Tai Min another display. Every advancement they've made can be traced back to hunting applications, their tools, their vehicles, their computers. Everything started as hunting technology. Human spears became missiles. Hunting coordination became military communication. Tracking skills became sensor technology. The entire human technological development could be seen as an evolution of hunting tools. They've never stopped being predators, Mi Young said quietly. They've just become predators with spaceship technology. In the ship's Strategic Planning Center, Tactical Officer Minho reviewed protocols for encounters with unknown species. The documents covered peaceful contact procedures, but they also included detailed combat assessments and tactical response options. First contact protocols updated, Minho noted. Peaceful engagement procedures verified. Combat contingencies prepared. Even their peaceful contact procedures assumed potential hostility. Humans approached diplomacy the way predators approached unfamiliar territory, ready to shift from peaceful interaction to lethal force at any moment. Their cultural development supports this analysis, Mi Young continued. Their stories, their games, their entertainment, everything revolves around competition, conflict, and dominance. Human culture celebrated competitive behavior, strategic thinking, and the defeat of opponents. Even their recreational activities involved simulated hunting, fighting, and territorial control. They had turned predatory behavior into entertainment. They play games that simulate conquest and domination, Mi Young observed. They tell stories about hunting and defeating enemies. They celebrate the skills that make them effective predators. Dr. Yoon Seo reviewed historical data about Earth's ecosystem and noted how humans had systematically eliminated or domesticated every other large species on their planet. The data showed a species that had achieved total dominance over their entire world. Species interaction analysis complete, Yoon Seo recorded. Human dominance of planetary ecosystem achieved through systematic elimination of competing species. The humans had conquered their entire homeworld, eliminating threats and competitors with methodical efficiency. They were apex predators who had run out of prey on their own planet and were now expanding into space. "Commander," Mi-young said, "there's one more thing. Their reproductive and social behaviors suggest they're designed for expansion into new territories. Human biology and culture supported rapid population growth and territorial expansion. They were built to spread across new environments, establish dominance, and exploit available resources. They were expansion predators on a galactic scale." "They're not just advanced," Mi-young continued. "They're an invasive species. Their entire biology and culture is designed for conquering new territories and eliminating competition." Navigation Officer Jin Ho worked with stellar cartography data, mapping potential routes to unexplored systems and cataloging worlds suitable for human habitation. His work was routine exploration planning, but it resembled the territorial mapping behavior of expanding predator species. "Stellar cartography updated," Jin Ho reported. 7 new systems identified for potential exploration and colonization. The Tior humans were systematically mapping the galaxy, identifying targets for expansion. They approached space exploration with the methodical efficiency of predators claiming new hunting grounds. The final phase of scanning revealed the most terrifying truth yet discovered about humanity. As the Volari quantum scanners penetrated deeper into the human ship's databases and communication networks, they uncovered information that shattered their understanding of galactic power structures forever. Science Officer Mi-young worked frantically at her station, processing data that made her question everything she thought she knew about military capabilities. Her discovery was so shocking that she had to verify it multiple times before reporting to Commander Taemin. "Commander," Mi-young called out, her voice hollow with disbelief. "The ship classification data is complete. Sir, we need to leave this sector immediately." Taemin approached her station with mounting dread. Each revelation about the humans had been worse than the last, but Mi-young's expression suggested this discovery exceeded all previous horrors. "What have you found?" Taemin asked. Mi-young's hands shook as she displayed the data. "Commander, this ship isn't a frontline combat vessel. According to their own classification system, the Indomitable is designated as a training ship." The A words hit Taemin like a physical blow. The massive battleship that could destroy the entire Volari fleet was considered a school ship by human standards. "That's impossible. No species uses weapons of this magnitude for training purposes." "The databases are clear, sir. This vessel is assigned to the Human Colonial Navy Training Command. The weapons that could sterilize planets are classified as light armament in their system. The crew that could conquer star systems are listed as cadets in advanced training." Meanwhile, aboard the Indomitable, Captain Hyun-woo received a routine communication from Earth Fleet Command. The message contained standard administrative updates that would have horrified the Volari if they understood the implications. "Captain Hyun-woo," the communication began, "Training Command requests status update on Cadet Squadron 7. Please confirm readiness for graduation exercises and deployment to active service." Hyun-woo read the message and sent a brief reply. "Cadet Squadron 7 performing within acceptable parameters. Recommend graduation to active service pending completion of deep space combat scenarios." The Volari scanners intercepted this communication and analyzed its contents. To them, it revealed the existence of a vast military machine that used planet-killing battleships for basic education. According to their training schedules, Mi-young continued her briefing, there are currently over 50 ships like this one conducting training exercises in various sectors, And these are just the training vessels. The implications were staggering. If humans used ships this powerful for education, their actual military vessels must be beyond imagination. The Valari realized they had encountered not just a dangerous species, but the educational wing of a galactic superpower. Lieutenant Colonel Wu Jin worked in the ship's communications center, coordinating with other training vessels in the sector. His routine administrative work revealed the scope of human military operations to the terrified Valari observers. Training Fleet Alpha reports exercises on schedule, Wu Jin noted in his log. 12 vessels completing advanced combat scenarios. Training Fleet Beta conducting deep space maneuvers in Sector 7. Training Fleet Gamma preparing for graduation deployment. The casual efficiency with which humans coordinated dozens of planet-killing warships for educational purposes was beyond Valari comprehension. They treated galactic-scale military power as routine administrative work. Look at their fleet composition data. Mi Young showed Tae Min another display. The training command operates over 300 vessels. The active military maintains thousands of ships in dozens of fleets. The human military structure dwarfed anything in known galactic history. The Valari Confederation's entire fleet consisted of 47 ships. The humans used more vessels for training than most species had for their complete military forces. Their logistics data is equally disturbing, Mi Young continued. They maintain supply lines across multiple star systems, coordinate operations on a galactic scale, and treat interstellar warfare as a standard operational procedure. Engineer Yu Jin reviewed maintenance schedules that showed the systematic efficiency of human military operations. Supply ships, support vessels, repair facilities, and logistical networks that spanned light years. The humans had industrialized warfare on a scale the Valari couldn't imagine. Maintenance schedule updated, Yu Jin reported. Supply convoy Delta 7. Arriving in 3 days. Ammunition resupply, spare parts replacement, and crew rotation proceeding on schedule. The humans maintained their training fleets with the same systematic efficiency other species used for peaceful commerce. They had turned military logistics into a routine industrial process. According to their historical records, Mi Young told Tae Min, this level of military capability represents a significant reduction from their planetary conflicts. They've actually scaled down their military since achieving spaceflight. This revelation was perhaps the most terrifying yet. The humans considered their current galaxy-spanning military machine to be a peacetime force. During their planetary wars, they had maintained even larger and more destructive military capabilities. Medical Officer So Young reviewed casualty projections for the training exercises. The documents assumed combat losses that would represent total fleet destruction for most species. Humans planned training scenarios expecting significant casualties and treated them as acceptable educational costs. Casualty projections updated, So Young noted, expected training losses within acceptable parameters for advanced combat scenarios. The humans were willing to accept in training what other species would consider devastating military defeats. They measured educational success by standards that would indicate civilizational collapse for the Valari. Their strategic planning documents are the most disturbing aspect, Mi Young continued. They don't plan for single battles or campaigns. They plan for galactic-scale, multi-generational conflicts. Human strategic doctrine included scenarios spanning decades or centuries. They planned for wars that would outlast individual commanders, governments, and sometimes entire generations. Their military thinking operated on timescales that exceeded most species' entire recorded history. Tactical Officer Min Ho reviewed strategic assessments that covered potential conflicts across multiple star systems. The documents discussed fleet movements, resource allocation, and operational planning on scales that would exhaust Valari computational capabilities. Strategic assessment updated, Minho reported. Multi-sector operational planning proceeding, within established parameters. The humans thought about warfare the way other species thought about geological processes. They planned military operations across time and space scales that dwarfed most civilizations' entire existence. "Commander," Mi Young said quietly, "their administrative efficiency suggests this isn't just a military force. It's a military civilization. Everything they do is organized around their capacity for warfare. The human economic systems, technological, development, social structures, and educational institutions all supported their military capabilities. They hadn't just built a powerful army, they had created an entire civilization designed for galactic conquest." Communications Officer Haya Jin processed routine messages from Earth Fleet Command that revealed the scope of human operations. Supply requests, personnel transfers, mission, assignments, and strategic updates that covered dozens of star systems and thousands of vessels. "Communication log updated," Haya Jin reported. "Fleet coordination proceeding normally across all operational sectors. The humans coordinated military operations across the galaxy with the same casual efficiency the Valari used for managing individual planets. Their operational scope was beyond anything in known galactic history." "Look at their production capabilities," Mi Young showed Taemin industrial data. "They're building new ships faster than most species can build ground vehicles. Their shipyards produce vessels like this one as routine manufacturing. Human industrial capacity supported continuous military expansion. They constructed planet-killing battleships with the same systematic efficiency other species used for commercial vessels. Their entire economy was organized for military production. According to their deployment schedules," Mi Young continued, "they're expanding into new sectors every month, not for exploration or trade, for strategic positioning and territorial control. The humans weren't just exploring space. They were systematically claiming it, establishing military presence in strategic locations and building the infrastructure for galactic dominance." Security Chief G1 reviewed deployment orders that assumed rapid expansion into previously unexplored regions. The documents discussed establishing forward bases, securing strategic resources, and maintaining military control over vast territories. "Deployment schedule confirmed," G1 reported. "Forward base establishment proceeding according to strategic timeline." The humans were implementing a galactic expansion strategy with military precision. They approached space colonization as a form of systematic conquest. "Commander," Mi Young whispered, "we're not just observing a powerful military force. We're witnessing the early stages of galactic conquest by a species that has turned warfare into an industrial process." Commander Taemin stood on the bridge of the Star Whisper, staring at the complete scan results of the human battleship. 24 hours of intensive analysis had revealed a truth so terrifying that it challenged everything the Valari Confederation believed about civilized life in the galaxy. "All stations, prepare for immediate withdrawal," Taemin ordered, his voice steady despite the fear that gripped his heart. "Set course for Confederation space. Maximum stealth protocols. Science Officer." Mi Young looked up from her station. "Commander, shouldn't we attempt communication? First contact protocols require diplomatic engagement." "Absolutely not," Taemin replied firmly. "Mi Young, transfer all scan data to secure storage and classify it at the highest level. What we've discovered here goes far beyond standard first contact procedures." The bridge crew worked quickly to prepare for departure. Each officer understood that something unprecedented had been discovered, though only Tae-min and Mi-young knew the full scope of the horror they had witnessed. Lieutenant. Dae-hai powered down the scanning arrays with careful precision. Sir, should we maintain surveillance until departure? No. Minimal sensor activity only. We cannot risk detection by these creatures. As the Valari ship prepared to leave, the human crew of the Indomitable continued their routine training exercises, completely unaware that they had been observed. Captain Hyun-woo sat in his command chair, reviewing reports from his department heads. Engineering reports all systems nominal. Communications Officer Hae-jin announced. Medical bay reports crew health within normal parameters. Security reports. No incidents. Very good, Hyun-woo replied. Continue training schedule as planned. We'll run the final combat scenarios tomorrow before heading back to Earth. Engineer Yoo-jin submitted her maintenance report, noting the brief sensor malfunction that had revealed their position to alien observation. To her, it was a minor technical issue requiring routine adjustments to prevent future detection problems. Stealth. System malfunction analysis complete, Yoo-jin reported. Recommend minor calibration adjustments to prevent future visibility windows. Captain Hyun-woo approved the maintenance request without concern. Brief stealth failures were common during training exercises. The probability of alien observation in empty space was considered negligible by human standards. Meanwhile, the Star Whisper reached minimum safe distance and engaged its fastest propulsion systems. Commander Tae-min maintained strict communication, silence as they fled the sector, wanting to put as much distance as possible between his ship and the human vessel. Commander, Mi-young said quietly, we need to discuss our report to Confederation Command. Tae-min nodded grimly. Prepare a preliminary summary. Classification level Omega Black. Distribution limited to the High Council only. Omega Black classification was reserved for extinction-level threats to the entire Confederation. It had been used only 3 times in Valari history, each time for discoveries that threatened the survival of their entire civilization. As the days passed, the Star Whisper made its way back to Valari space carrying the most dangerous information in galactic history. The scan data of the human battleship represented intelligence that could reshape the balance of power across 3 galaxy arms. Upon arrival at the Confederation capital, Commander Tae-min was immediately summoned to the High Council chambers. The most senior leaders of Valari civilization gathered to hear his report on the alien encounter. Council members, Tae-min began his briefing. We have encountered a species that redefines our understanding of galactic threats. I recommend immediate implementation of Avoidance Protocol Alpha across all Confederation territories. High Counselor Zenkar leaned forward in his seat. Commander, Avoidance Protocol Alpha is reserved for species that pose existential threats to our civilization. Your report suggests these aliens have advanced technology, but surely they can be negotiated with. Counselor, with respect, negotiation with these creatures would be tantamount to suicide, Tae-min replied. The humans are not an advanced civilization that happens to have weapons. They are a weaponized civilization that has achieved technological advancement. The council chambers fell silent as Tae-min presented his evidence. Biological data showing impossible physical capabilities, technological specifications,